What up, y'all? Justin Gay, Seeds of Xanadu. I'll show y'all what I got going on here at the little plot that could. I'm gonna be working at the same time. Let me uncover these so you guys can see what's cracking. Come along with me. This right here now is my bed number 1. This is all a wild arugula. This bed and this bed, as well as the third bed here, bed number 3, have always, or for the last 2 years, which is all I've been here, so I guess always, have given me some kind of trouble around this time of the year. I've actually done this video a couple times, or at least this part of a video a couple different times, but I don't think I've ever had a chance to put it out there to you guys. So a bit of an update for the pest are back video. I don't think those are pests. I think what was going on is that it's getting so hot here. I've been covering up these rows all day long. These rows right here, 1, 2, and 3, right about 8 o'clock in the morning right now, but you can see the sun is already coming over here, right? It's getting brighter as we're speaking. And it just nails these rows. Row 1 will typically, right in this area here, kind of get shadowed out by the house, but the rest of the row gets blasted. Them being covered up all day like that and them getting blasted for a good part of the day, well into the hottest part of the day, right? Which is, for us, this time of year, right about 4 o'clock. That's when we get to the peak, I believe, has kind of just been cooking the plants. And seeing that these crops are seeded so densely, they can't transpire correctly, they can't even evaporate correctly. They're just kind of touching each other, I think, a bit too much. Basically what I'm saying is I think that they're cooking themselves, and covering could actually be a problem. Plants just aren't strong enough, right? They're molding out, they're falling over, kind of maybe getting a little too lanky. But the thing is that it gets so hot so fast here that it's almost like you have to keep them on almost all day. Like today we're gonna be getting to, it's gonna be like 96 today. The other rows, we'll get into those guys, but they're pretty solid. Rows 4, 5, 6 and beyond, there's a lot more shade there. And that shade will end up being there until about, I guess closer to like 11 noonish, when the sun is kind of coming down. This is southern facing. So when the sun is kind of coming down that way, that's when it gets hit. But then it does go into the hotter part of the day, but then it's, you know, going down into the cooler part of the day as well. Over there on that side, they're not, I don't believe they're getting as intense of heat as they are over here. So I think that might be what's going on here, and that's why we're losing crops. So what I've done is I've changed the variety from, we were doing a culinary arugula, at least that's what they were calling it. So I'm not trying to hold my seed. It's the one that you get from True Market. Yeah. I got accused of that once. I'm like, no, dude, that's what they call it, I promise. And I went to a wild arugula. Again, no name, just wild arugula. You can get it at True Leaf Market. That's where I got that. I've also cut down on the amount of rows that I wrote out in the middle of the row, right? So we were at 9, now I'm at 7. And hopefully I can keep it about that through the hotter part of the year. But pretty soon we're gonna get cooler, so I'm not really, it shouldn't be too bad. So far, so good, but I mean, it's always so far, so good at this point. We normally don't start seeing the problems till they're about here. I'm already starting to low-key see them on row number 3. So more than likely, we'll have to harvest that guy out. I'd like to give it 1 more week. But outside of that, all these other rows are looking good. There's really not too many of a problem. This row right here, harvested that guy out last week. Harvested that one last week as well, the arugula. Mustard mix. Took a stab at doing a saute mix. It did okay in the market. It was mostly red Russian kale and mustard. A little bit of arugula was in there as well. Here is the lettuce. We actually already harvested this once last week. What I'm doing for my lettuce heads, I think there's other people that do this as well, but I just spot harvest these. So what that means is I just kind of go around and see which ones are needing to be harvested, and I just harvest those, as opposed to just harvesting a whole row. For the most part, you are harvesting a whole row. Basically, I'm leaving the ones that are a little bit smaller for maybe another week or so, and then I'll harvest them. The idea is to allow those ones to get bigger as the just newly harvested ones regenerate. It seems to be working. Got a little bit more arugula. That's looking pretty good. And then here's our last bed. Our last 2 beds, I'm sorry. These guys have already been hit once. Check it out though. Rota bugs. That's the bad kind. Yeah, those are the ones I don't like. Actually, these 2 rows are gonna get harvested anyway tomorrow. The tomatoes, this is where I've gotta be. This is where I gotta do most of my work right now. Look at these things, man. Look at those truss down there. What? I think that these guys are pretty much rounding the corner. I was gonna put a succession of tomatoes back in here. And I'm really glad that I didn't, just because I want to start running lettuces and other things in this area. We'll give these guys a couple more weeks, and then we will harvest the whole plant. I remember hearing Ben Hartman say that, you know, tomatoes are a really good grow. Yeah. yeah, dude, they do well. And I feel as though because, you know, because it is such a small area, I can come back here and, oh my God, that's like candy, dude. Whoa, that's like straight candy. I can come back here and really give them a lot of attention, right? By composting, pruning, really just going in on them. And it has really, really worked out in my advantage, man. These are some of the sweetest tomatoes I've had, I think, ever. They're delicious, I love them. Even these, the pear tomatoes, man. I'm normally not a fan of pear tomatoes. They're fire, dude. They're fire. So happy with tomatoes, yeah, and they're selling really well, man. I sell out of these every week. Granted, I'm only harvesting about 30 pounds a week. I could harvest more, but they're kind of like marginally red or whatever. I just kind of leave them on the plant. So if they're like more like this, I'll just go ahead and leave them. And then we come back and harvest those guys again on Friday, which has been working out really well. And then we'll take them all to market. With the tomatoes now, man, I'm not even lowering. I mean, I'm not even leaning them really. I'm just lowering them. They're starting to sag again. Yeah, next year, it's gonna be the same idea, but I just think something more rigid needs to be in place. Not this little flexi wire. I knew I should have changed that. What that is right there is a leaf footer bug. Another kind of stink bug, really. Stink bugs, dude, to me are the worst, man, because they just come with high numbers and they can do crazy destruction. So far, they don't look like they're really doing much, but kind of just hanging out. I don't know how much battling of these guys I'm really gonna do outside of just trying to keep down their numbers maybe a little bit, just so they don't go too crazy. Next year seem to only pop up during the later part of the season, so I haven't really cared too much about them. This is the first year that we're doing tomatoes, though. Normally I see them on the pomegranates, but this year they're on the tomatoes. Anyhow, these tomatoes they're showing signs, you know, insect pressure's coming. This late blight starting to pop off, you know. It's just the time of the year, man. August, I'm not trying to fight this now. You know what I mean? This is just life. Dude. What I've ended up doing in the watering of these tomatoes, at least for the most part, is we're now kind of just doing it every other day. That's another thing that's really helping out with the flavor. Putting on a bunch of different types of compost teas as well. That's been helping out just on overall growth. I gotta go put my hat on. Yeah, this side definitely is gonna need me to retighten it. It's kind of messing around and kind of went a bit too far. So we'll get ahead on that. First, I'm gonna finish these tomatoes. Next year, I want to at least double these crops. And I'm thinking, seeing that I'm having such a problem growing leafy greens in my rows 1, 2, and 3, and they get a lot of sunlight, I'm gonna go ahead and just put tomatoes over there as well. So I'll add this section again. We'll get this all nice recompost, a nice thick layer again, and then we'll add another crop of tomatoes over there. Also, I think what I'm gonna do next year, seriously, is utilize my space a little bit more. In years past, when I have done tomatoes, I had basil growing underneath them. Then another time I did it with carrots. That was pretty cool. This year I didn't do it. The reason I didn't do it was because of the lower and lean thing. I wasn't exactly sure on how, when I'm leaning, how that was going to affect the plants down below. But now I'm kind of getting an idea of how this thing works and how it can look. So, and then plus if I do it with a more rigid system next year, I can put a lot more weight on the system and really get my plants real tall, really high, and keep them off the ground that much more, which is definitely a plus. Time to get this guy off the ground now. All right, so that's the tomatoes. We'll check out we'll go check out the microgreens next, and then we'll go into the front yard. Microgreens, yeah, man. For the most part, nothing really to report here on the microgreen front, man. They've been doing pretty damn good. Oh, I will say, however, we have been having a hell of a time with getting our proper weights of our sunflower. We've been getting right about half of the weight out of our sunflower crops. I just decided to go ahead and pull the trigger and go with a different company, and it looks like we're getting better lots. Peas are looking good. Yeah, man, I'm really happy with the microgreens. Peas like water. Watering these guys twice a day now, man, yeah, I've been able to get really good yields out of my pea. Really happy with the microgreens. We planted these guys out last Thursday. Today's Tuesday. These won't get harvested till Thursday, so they got about 3 more days. Here's the front. The lettuce up here is looking really good. The direct sowed salad greens, however, I'm not really happy with them. They look okay. It's got a lot of damage on them and stuff. That's kind of what's bugging me, is that bugs hit them. This next row, as you can see, has been overtook by my squash. I thought we were going to be able to get in there, sneak in another harvest, but didn't happen. These squash are coming out here today, so I'm going to pull all these squash plants out. We already have the other succession of squash going on over there. Squash is another one too, man, that did pretty damn well for us this year in the market. That's kind of why I just went ahead and allowed it to go over that row as well. It's because it was doing pretty well. But these plants are actually starting to taper off quite a bit now. We're actually getting less than half out of that row now than what we were at the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, we were pushing upwards of 60 pounds just out of that row. To tell you the truth, it's way less than half. We're getting like 19, 20 pounds out of that row now. Let's get rid of it. Plant some stuff there that will actually meet a full yield, and then as well I'll be able to get my other row back. So that's what's gonna happen now. All right, that's all done. I'll end up seeding that tomorrow. Do you guys like to see me doing more work? You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to show you guys me doing work clearing rows again. I feel like I've showed so much of that. But I know at the same time it is kind of cool to see somebody else working and getting it in. It's almost like they're doing it with you. So I don't know. Let me know. Who knows? Yeah, everything's looking really good, man. This is a cool time of year for us. Very cool time of year. So with that, bid y'all do. Talk to y'all, man. Peace.